877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Stumbling down the road with Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff as she carries stones, digs holes, and wheels her shovels on her way. This road is the real path. It is never easy and never clear, but always entertaining. This journey has not been a seated event, as Bridgette walks, runs, stumbles, carries, digs, drags, laughs, fights, sings, prays, dances, kicks, screams, and oftentimes falls.
Hello.
Hey, Jordan. I think we're still in promos. Hold on one second, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show. We are on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We are 100% listener supported, so you can go to our website, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can look at the funding links and find all kinds of amazing ways that you can help fund our network. Everything that everybody does on this network, we do for free. We volunteer, and we bring, the best possible information to you. Also, while you're at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, you can also go to schedule on the left-hand side, click on Schedule A, because I'm in Schedule A. Scroll down to the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and click on the B, and then you'll be able to find some information about my show and contact information if you want to contact me. All right, so today I have a return guest, somebody that I just love to listen to and been following for years and years and years. And we have Mr. Jordan Maxwell on. Hi, Jordan.
Hello there. Nice to talk to you.
Hey, so how have you been?
Oh, I think okay for considering everything. I think about as well as I can at my age.
Well, yeah, some days better than most, huh? Some days better.
Yeah, all days are difficult, but some are a little bit better.
Yeah, well, probably now that it's getting a little more sunshine, it's probably being a little bit more helpful.
Yeah. I've been dealing with a lot of difficulties in my life over the past 20 years or 25 years. And it's really taken its toll on me because it really cost me so much to do what I do. But I'm still here, and I just keep plugging along. I figure I'll just do what I have to do, and whoever's supposed to hear me will, and whoever's not supposed to hear me won't. So I don't care. I just keep doing what I do. I'm almost 80 years old now, and I'm feeling like 120. But I still do radio. I do a lot of radio, and I'm working on my research site and my website. So that's what I do. That's what I'm into now.
Yeah, so everything, we talked about this last time. So everything that's under your name now has Jordan Maxwell Show.
Yeah, everything. There are different websites out there with my name on them, but they're not mine. Other people use my name to make themselves a lot of money off of my name, but they're not my website. I only have two websites. One is my most important website is called Jordan Maxwell Show. Just 3 words, jordanmaxwellshow.com. And then on my jordanmaxwellshow.com, you will see a flyer or a little note button. It's called Jordan Maxwell Research Society. And you can click on it and join it. And on that Research Society website, I'm having placed all of my materials, all my videos, audios, books, reference works, pictures, diagrams, all the books and the people that I recommend. I mean, just virtually everything I'm working on and have worked on. I'm trying to put it all into one place that anyone can go to see all that I am doing and all that I have done over the many years. But there is so much there and so much yet to go on. I have about 4 terabytes, 4,000 gigs of material that I want to put on my website, and we're working on it. My webmaster's working on it little by little. He has his own life to live, and there's only so much he can do each day, but we're just piling all of my research onto my research website. And so, again, my original website, Jordan Maxwell Show. And from there, you can go to my research society and you can see all the things I've been doing and am doing now. So just keep in mind that there are different websites out there with my name on it, but there's only one that I own, and it's Jordan Maxwell Show. And thank you for letting me tell the audience that.
Well, I think it's important because you have centuries of information that people should know about.
Well,
because I think that, you've gone through so many different timelines with so much different information.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of the fact that my kind of information that I deal with and the kind of subjects I deal with are on a very, very small group that would be interested in the kind of thing I do. And so I don't have that big of an audience. I do have a lot of people who've heard me, but I don't really have that big of an audience because my kind of information is not the kind of thing that people are interested in, unfortunately. I just deal with the facts of life, the hard, dark facts of life, all the way the world really actually works. And most people are not interested in that because they don't need to be. They've got their ball games and movies and television and computer games and all the nonsense that we are led into as humans. So we don't need to know how the world really actually works and who owns it and where the words come from and what the symbols mean and how the courts work and banks and government and intellectual dishonesty and government and lies and deception. I've been looking at all the dark side of history that's been hidden from the human family. But most people couldn't care less. For some reason, I'm just amazed. Most people don't care about the dark side. They don't care about it. They don't know anything about it. They don't want to. So I just figure I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because one day it'll all begin to make sense. It all begins to come about and people will begin to see their world collapsing around them. And then they will begin to perceive some sort of a dark horrible, frightening forces destroying civilization and destroying culture. And when they finally begin to see it, it'll be way too late. But you can remember, Jordan Maxwell was talking about it for the last 60 years. Since 1959, I've been doing public lectures and radio and traveling around the world talking to people about the horrible tragedies which are coming on the human family. And that's what I've been trying to do, is wake people up to the terrible times which were coming. Well, now those terrible times are here, and still most people don't see it and they don't want to hear it. So I just do what I can to help people awake them, wake up to find out where they are in the stream of time and who we are and where we're going. Most people don't know where we've come from. They don't know how we got here. They have no idea where we are now. So therefore, they have no idea in the world where we're going and where we're heading as a human race. These are the kind of things I've been talking about for some 60 years. And now the things I was talking about back in 1959, some 60 years ago, are now in fact happening, because I talked about these things back before John F. Kennedy was assassinated back in 1963. I was giving lectures in Los Angeles in 1959 about the secret societies and the occult criminal world behind governments and behind our churches and religions, and the international criminal associations that are behind world government, and how the wars that were being planned and what was going to happen to America, et cetera, et cetera. And I was talking about that kind of stuff for a long time. And I got into, back then, during the early 70s, I started talking to motion picture and television studios. I would go at nighttime. I would go when most people were gone. I always had a group of people at the different studios that wanted to hear me. And so I would go to the different major motion picture studios. They'd have passes for me, and I'd go in, and we could set up, some sort of a slide presentation with the microphone. And I would talk about the Knights Templars, the Masonic Order of International Bankers who are financing the wars and revolutions and the assassinations, and the secret societies in religion that were planning the demise of the United States of America and how we were being destroyed and what was going to happen to our government. And all that kind of stuff is the kind of thing I'm fascinated with. I've always been interested in international intrigue and who runs the world and where do we get our money from and what is going on with us and where are we heading as a country and as a people, and where's the world going. And so this is what I've always done. I've always been interested in the secrets, the secrets of the world, and the words that are used around the world, the different languages and the etymology of the terms that we use and what they actually mean. And the more I started looking into it, because I was just fascinated with this stuff in my teens, and by the time I began to really look into it back in 1959 and start talking about it publicly, it became an incredible obsession. I wanted to know, and I couldn't put books down. I was reading continually and then contacting all the writers and the authors and lecturers and teachers. I would contact them and go and see them when I could, and write letters to all the different governmental agencies around the world, inquiring why this and why that, and what are you doing with this? And I would call. And so I was doing a lot of research before there was any web, before the web makes it easy now, but I was doing it all the hard way. And so I got what I wanted, but I've learned a lot of lessons because of who I am and what I do. I've learned a lot of things about life that I never suspected before. But it's a very interesting subject for those people who care about the dark side of this world that we live in. What's really, in point of fact, actually going on and how things really work. And I'm famous for saying that the world does not work the way you think it does. Nothing works the way you think it does. And you don't ask questions, you don't know, you don't inquire. Therefore, no one's going to tell you. And the people who do know and the people who are running our world at the very top, like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And since you're not in the club that runs the world, they're not going to tell you anything. Zero. And if you happen by chance to find out because of some strange situation that you happen to find out something you're not supposed to know about the world and how it works, you can die because of that if you talk about it in public. If the power people who run this world find out that you know something you're not supposed to know, they will kill you. You can die because of knowledge in this country and around the world. So that's why you're seeing so many assassinations and so much hatred going on and so many different ideas and concepts that we're finding out are all wrong and lies and deception and corruption, etc., because the world does not work the way you think it does. And this is what I've been trying to do all my life, is just wake people up to the fact you need to go back to school and learn how to read and learn how to think and start questioning authority and questioning everything you thought you believed was true, because none of it is. We've been lied to from day one.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
I agree. Well, I'm in the same boat. I get labeled a doom and gloomer, which is fine. I'd rather know the truth about things so that I can at least be prepared.
Or at least understand it. If you can't do anything about it, at least understand. Yeah.
So last time we talked, I don't know, maybe it was a couple months ago, but one of the things that we talked about was food, and the reason why a lot of, immigrants want to come into the U.S. in droves is because of the food, and like America is, one of the last places of the food. But then, we've had droves of immigrants crossing the border and trying to get here because they don't have a lot of food left in their countries. But,
they don't have anything.
Yeah. And then now we're watching all the flooding. So since I've talked to you, all of the farming in the Midwest and the South is all underwater and they can't grow crops this year. All of the silo crops from last year, wheat and corn, is gone. It's been demolished. And, and we're like you said, we're coming into some serious times. We're going to have a very epic food crisis, because even if you will have money, you will not be able to get food because all the other countries are in the same state of affairs with food.
Of course.
So where would the U.S. get it?
Well,
if they're not growing. Yeah.
Yeah, the entire superstructure of civilization on the earth is now collapsing. And there's going to be an awesome transformation on the earth soon, because the age of Aquarius is now coming in quickly, and we're going to experience some world-shaking events. And it's just incredible when I'm listening to the top-of-the-line scientists talking about all the things which are potential that could happen right now, and with the with the meltdowns in Japan, Fukushima, and killing the life in the seas in the Pacific, and the mega volcanoes that are under the Yellowstone National Park, and how the earth in Yellowstone is rising like an inch a year or something like that. Something is happening under the earth that's getting ready to blow. And then, of course, we are now seeing the wars that are coming and the incredible financial collapses around the world. The whole earth is experiencing some sort of an incredible dark time in which the world of mankind is now moving. And I know what the implications are, and I know that our cities in America are falling apart. Detroit and Camden, New Jersey, and you begin to look at what's happened to America financially, and she's lost her freedoms, she's lost her ability to speak. Americans have lost their jobs, their money, They've lost their homes, and now there's nothing else to lose now but your mind. So now we're finding people are starting to act and crazy, killing each other, going what we call postal, because there's so much violence and so much anger and hatred going on in the people's minds, and they're ignorant and ill-informed and unread, and they do not understand what's going on politically or spiritually. All they know is they're hurting, and I'm telling you, they're getting ready to hurt a lot more. It's coming big time. Our country is collapsing because even the scriptures in the Bible has Jesus saying that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And so we are probably the biggest house that's undivided right now in this world. And we're not going to be able to stand much longer. We're not going to be America much longer. We're going to collapse. And when we do, God help us, because it's going to be a horrible situation coming on us. And I don't even care if people think that I'm just booing on and trying to harm people. I'm not trying to harm anyone. I'm trying to wake them up. And I have people telling me, well, yeah, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yeah, the light is a train coming. We have some serious problems that we've never looked at, we don't talk about. And now it's getting to time, I think it's an idea whose time has come to begin to look at the real world you live in and how it actually works. And boy, that's a whole new subject. And it's a big, deep hole. And when you start to go down that hole and find out what your government really is and what your churches really are and where your religions have actually come from and where your banks are coming from and who start the monetary systems of the world and who runs the banks of the world, and it's just an extraordinary story of how ignorant the human family really is. And I've just been trying it my way to wake people up to start doing their own research. Start doing some research on your own, and I want to help them where they want to start. And I get a lot of emails. People say, well, where do I start to read? Where do I start to learn? Well, you can go on my website. That would be a start. I'm the one who's talking about it for 60 years. So you might go on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and I've got a lot of material on there, places to go to look into, things to see and things to understand. I got pictures and documents and audio and video and places that I highly recommend, the different people I recommend, the different books, videos. It's an educational time that we need to be in right now. We need to beginning to educate yourself how your government really works, how your banks actually in fact work, and what is going on in the Western civilization, because it's going to affect all of us. And that's why I do what I do. I enjoy doing radio because at least at my age, I can at least tell people and try and help them to where to look and how to educate themselves. But there's not much I can do at 80 years old, except to put more information on my Research Society website and to talk on the radio. And that's about all I can do now, because I've lost my youth and I've lost everything because of who I am and what I do. So the only thing left for me to do now is just hope and pray that enough people will listen and enough people will care about their life and their country and where they're going and where they've come from. And so that's what I'm doing, and that's what I continue to want to do, is just do my work of educating people. And it's an extraordinary world.
It is. For years and years and years, I think I've been on the same boat, like watching people, especially in the U.S., and, trying to figure out what the common denominator is that is wrong with them. Like, is it the food, is it the vaccines, is it the chemtrails? Like, what is the mind-altering situation that's going on that they can't notice? Even simple things that are going on around them. And in farming, we have chickens, and chickens, if one of the chickens starts to act not normal, not doing the same thing as the other chickens, they start to notice. And what they start to do is they start to pounce on the chicken. And then they start to, tear its feathers out. And over a period of time, they will tear it apart and kill it. If it's not behaving, the same mindset as the other chickens. And that kind of reminds me more of what's going on in American society today, is that if you don't, I think people have to make a decision. Do I keep getting along with everybody else and kind of following along, doing the same thing? Or, do I step out of that comfort zone and have to let go of things the way that they are, because the people around me are going to freak out and they're possibly going to attack me. So sometimes even when I see people step out, they actually go back in because they are not dealing with the whole, other part of the chicken tribe, attacking them.
Yeah. Well, and if you read through the Bible and the New Testament story of Jesus, Jesus himself said, the slave is no greater than the master. What they have done to me, they will do to you, period. So we're told that Jesus came to heal people, to feed them, to educate them, to awaken them to their spiritual responsibilities in life, and to explain to them what's going on in the world, and to protect them and take care of the human family. And for that, they nailed him to a stake and spit on him and mocked him when he was dying. And so he said, well, what they've done to me, they will do to you. The slave is no greater than the master. So don't think that people are going to love you because you're telling them the truth. Like the Apostle Paul said, have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Yes. Yeah, you do become an enemy when you tell people the truth, because most people don't want to hear the truth. One of the things that I learned about life in the past 60 years of my work is that people will always finance and financially support in every way things that they want. They will not support what they don't want. They will, you will pay money to go to the restaurant you like, to eat the food you like. You're not going to pay to go someplace you don't like and eat things you don't like. If you're going to buy clothes, you'll go someplace to find what you're looking for, and then you will buy it. So that's why you have so many different kinds of stores, because people's tastes are different. So people will always finance and spend money on to eat what they want, to wear what they want, to buy what they want. They will not spend money or support things they don't want. And the one thing that history has taught all of us, if you read history, the one thing that most people, not everyone, but most people don't want, and they don't want to hear any problems, and they don't want to hear any real truth about the world they live in. They want to think and feel that everything is all right. That's why you go to social organizations. You have social groups because it makes you feel good when you have many friends in your society, in your club, or in your Boy Scout club, or in your church, or your synagogue, or your mosque. You have many friends. But if you start thinking too much for yourself and start asking questions and educating yourself, you're going to find that your friends are going to drop off little by little. You're going to start losing friends, and one day you're going to find out you have no friends. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be around you. Why? Because you're a troublemaker. You're causing people to think, and that's very dangerous, So I've learned that most people don't want to support, and they don't want to hear the real truth. But for those who do want to know and don't mind, accepting and doing their own research and finding out, I want to be there just to help them. That's what I wanted when I was a young kid. I was so happy that I was able to buy records and tapes and go to lectures and educate myself by going to different classes and talking to all the experts and asking them questions that I could get answers to. And so I just want to give back to the world all those wonderful things that I have been given. And I wanted to know, and I found out, and so it cost me a lot. Because if you want to know a little bit about something, well, then go get a book on the subject, or go on the web today. It's very easy, and go to YouTube and sit there and listen to lectures on the subject you're interested in. But if you want to know some more, well, then take some time and maybe go to a class and go to some sort of a small classroom setting, like in a college, to learn more about the subject you're interested in. But that'll take your time and money. But if you really want to know, well, then that's to go educate yourself. If you really want to become an expert on something really important, well, then go to 4 or 5 or 6 years to university colleges. But that's going to cost you a lot. Well, it just depends on what you want to know. You get what you pay for. You want to know a little bit, you pay a little bit. You want to know a lot, you're going to pay a lot. If you want to know the kind of stuff I do, yeah, you're going to pay like you never, ever expected to pay. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your home. You're going to lose your name. You're going to be ridiculed. You're going to live your life of heartache and tragedy because you know too much and you don't fit in. And that's where I am. But I don't care because that's the life I chose, and that's who I am now. But I did at least get what I wanted. I wanted to know, and now I do know. Now I'm trying to stay alive, to do my work and help other people to want to know also. But just keep in mind that the more you learn, the more you're going to wish you didn't know. But the more you find out, the more you're going to find out how much you didn't know before. And you're going to begin to see what's happening to the world of mankind. We've all been kept in the dark and lied to and miseducated, uneducated. Most people think they're educated. They have no idea in the world. All they're doing is just getting an imprimatur of the government stamped on your name, and they give you a degree, which is actually just a work permit. It gives you an opportunity to go out and get a job now that you have a degree. But even now, the university degrees that you're paying hundreds of thousands of bucks for and putting yourself in debt for, now you're finding out those degrees are not buying you anything. You're coming out and having to go find a job at McDonald's because there are no jobs. The big degree jobs have already been filled and they don't need you. And the whole world is going artificial intelligence and computerized robotics. And eventually, they're not even going to need you. They can build cars without you. They can build without you. It's all going to be automated, computerized, and the humans going to universities. Who needs you? You're just a weight on the system. They don't need you, and they couldn't care less who you are. And so I see where the world of mankind is going. I've been talking about it for a long time, and we could talk about some of the interesting points if you want to, depending on what your audience is interested in. But I've seen a lot of things in my life, and I've heard all kinds of stories. And that's another thing I'd like to say, is that I am not the world's foremost authority on anything. I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. But I have been in the company of extremely important people in this world, in which I was able to learn and understand how the world works. I've seen very famous people, highly placed people. I've been in their company and saw what they were doing and listened to them and talked with them in private. So I got a very good understanding about how the world actually is working. And so it all makes sense to me now that I understand it. And that's why I don't care any longer. I just do what I do the best I can and try and explain to the people how the world works. And so you can educate yourself and protect yourself if you know what you're getting into. And unfortunately, we come into the world as a baby. We grow up in the culture that we happen to be born into. And that's the whole truth as far as we're concerned. Whatever it is we were born into and our parents bought into and our friends bought into, that's the way we live and that's the way it is. But you never think about if you had been born in a different area of the world, under different circumstances, a different family, and a different culture, then you would think totally different than you do today. That we are we're just the outcome of what we were brought up to believe. And,
I'm watching this, I try not to watch TV, but I've been watching this. It's about two basically battling AIs, and it's called Persons of Interest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the one of the head guys, there's 105 episodes. The one of the head actors is the guy who played Jesus in the Passions of Christ, Mel Gibson's movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And but anyway, these two friends, and it goes through these scenarios over time about these two AIs that come together. And the one, he tries to build one that helps humanity and does good things for humanity. And he talks to it and trains it like a child and a person to care about humans and all this other stuff. And then his friend builds one that gets into the bad people's hands that's called Samaritan. And it literally starts taking over everything. It figures out how to infiltrate in every, part of society to manage and watch and even create scenarios in order to get what it wants and use people and humanity, has like armies of people at its beck and call. But it's,
I think it's interesting. It's called Persons of Interest.
Yeah, Persons of Interest. And I didn't know about it.
I think that's very important. The word persons, that's very catchy. Persons of interest, the word person and what it means and where it actually comes from. That's really interesting that they would have a show named Persons.
Yeah, and so if you have Netflix, or you can get Netflix, it's on Netflix. But last night, I'm towards the end of, the episodes. There's only 105 of them, and it goes through the whole story. But the last one I watched, they were talking about how one of the people got kidnapped, and they put a computer chip in her brain, and they ran through like 7,000, virtual reality things, trying to control her, get her to where she didn't really know whether she was awake and alive or if she was in the simulation. And it kind of comes out in the episode that maybe we're all just a simulation.
That's what I think.
When we're awake, we're even part of a simulation.
I think that is exactly correct. That's what I think based on the years that I've been looking at life. I think that we are part of some sort of an overshadowing program in the universe that has created us, and we are merely actors on a stage, like the song says, we're all actors on a stage, but it's all computerized, and we don't realize it. We don't know that we're being played for fools. And but I do. I understand what's going on, and I'm sure that we are nothing more than holograms, and there's something else going on in the world that we're not getting. We don't see it. Our brains are a computer. Our bodies are a battery, and your body as a battery, and your physical body as a stock market. You are on the stock market. You are a security on the stock market today, and your family, their bodies are all on the stock market, and we are being bought and sold in banking around the world. If you get your birth certificate, you'll find on the back of your original birth certificate all kinds of stamps from around the world, from banks and loan companies, all kinds of financial institutions. You will see being stamped on your birth certificate. Why? Because your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange, and you are worth millions of dollars on the New York Stock Exchange, and you're being bought and sold by the people who own you.
Yeah,
and you have no idea in the world. Most people have no idea in the world that you are nothing more than a stock on the stock market.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is now they're so blatant about the birth certificate that it comes in a stock certificate. I had to get a new one in like 2003, and I got one from California, which was one of the first ones that that's where I was born, that turned their birth certificates and even the older ones into the stock certificate, and it came in a stock certificate format. And then on the very corner, it said you had to get a magnifying glass out. It said banknote of the United States in the very, left corner. And then now, I don't know, have you seen the death certificates? I've had several friends, have people in their family die, and the death certificates are stock certificates too.
Yeah, well, because your body is a security on the stock exchange.
Exactly. And
that's why when you die, you are referred to because you are a corporation. See, the whole thing goes back to the 1870s, into the Civil War. What happened back in the Civil War days is now affecting us big time. There were deals that were being made after the Civil War and during and after the Civil War back in the 1850s, 1860s, and the 1870s. There were deals being made with international banking cartels in Europe and around the world. And today, they are dominating the world today, the deals that were made then, and you are part of it. And so that's a whole story, that would take a long time to get into. We could talk about, if you want, how we got into the mess we're in intellectually, how we got into the intellectual mess and the financial mess that we're in today. And why do we have police? That's another question people don't ask. Where did the idea for a police department come from? I mean, obviously, fire department is obvious why, but where do you get the idea for a police department? Where does the word come from? What does it mean? And so, it's like I said, there's just so many stories that people need to know about, and I just try and help people to educate themselves and show them where to start. And the best place to start is go to my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, and join my research society, because everything I have and been doing over the years, I'm putting up as much as I can, every day. But my webmaster can only do so much work a day, only so many hours in a day, and so there's only so much he can do. But he's putting up all my information, all my research materials I've been doing over the years, little by little. He's putting a lot of it up on the web. And it's called the Jordan Maxwell Research Society.
And it's jordanmaxwellshow.com.
Yeah, jordanmaxwellshow.com is my website. But on there, you will see that I have a research society banner, a little banner, and it says just click here and join. So you have to join my research society. And the reason I put it that way and made it that way, where you have to join it, is because my lawyer friends told me the kind of information you're putting out could get you in trouble. And so if you're putting it out in the public airwaves, if you're going out and putting this kind of information, all the secret information about secret stuff going on in banking and secret stuff going on with the police and underworld organizations, mafia, and your government, when you're putting out this kind of information, you can get in trouble. And the government can come in and shut you down, because the government is supposedly empowered to protect the people. And so the government will come in and shut you down and probably throw you in jail eventually, because they're protecting the people. Why? Because they're protecting the people from knowing the truth. And so I was told by my lawyers, if you're going to talk about this kind of hard dealing stuff, you better protect yourself and put it into a private place and on the web. So people have to join, because you can't do anything. The law says the government cannot interfere in private discussions. So if I go to a restaurant, I got about 10 people there, and I'm talking to them for 2 or 3 hours, it's nobody's business except the people I'm talking to who want to be there, paid to be there. And so that's a private conversation. The government has nothing to say about it. The rest of the people in the restaurant have nothing to say about it. It's a private conversation. But if I go out and start publishing on the web, putting out all kinds of dark stuff that's really, really powerful stuff to read and find out about how your government is really working and who's really pulling the strings, you can get in trouble for that. Government is scared to death that the people will find out what they have been doing, because there's a lot of people who are angry, a lot of angry people in this country. And if these people ever found out how they got to be in the mess they're in, the government knows there's going to be some serious trouble. So you better keep your mouth shut. And so that's why I put it all into private distribution.
Yep. Okay, so people can go there. So yeah, it would be a really great conversation coming into the second hour if we could talk about the Civil War, because I think a lot of people are glamorized about the Constitution and they think it's the be all end all. Even a lot of the people in the legal movements, the kind of underground legal movements. And we've talked about that before, and I've heard you talk about it, that there are two different constitutions. There's a constitution of, and there's a constitution for. Does not mean the same thing. Ask any good federal lawyer or any lawyer at all. Ask them, is there any difference between an of and for? You can bet your life on it. When you go into a federal court and you're talking about something that you have of or for, two different words. So we have two different constitutions that people don't know about. One is the Constitution of the United States of America. That was the original one back in the 1770s. Constitution for the United States of America, a Constitution of the United States of America. And then we have a Constitution today, which is the Constitution for the United States. It's called the United States Constitution. But it's totally different than the Constitution for the United States of America. That's a totally different operation completely. And today you will be told, if you call the Internal Revenue and tell them you have a problem with your taxes, and tell them, if you give them the right problem, they will tell you, then you need to call the United States of America's government. It's in Philadelphia. You're not talking to the United States of America. You're talking to the United States Corporation in Washington, D.C. It's a privately owned municipal corporation called the United States Company. It's a corporation, and so are you. You are, in order to operate in this corporation, you have to be a corporation, and so they make you a corporation. And a lot of people don't know that they are considered by law to be a corporation. Let me give you an example. When you die, you're referred to as a corpse because you were a corporation, but now you're defunct. You're not in business any longer. And so, if I see you coming out of a restaurant one night with some guy, and I see you with him, and the next day I call you and say, that guy you were out with last night, yeah, I'm just telling you, this guy is bad company. You better watch yourself with him. It's bad company. And you say to me, mind your own business. We're getting married, and he's going to be my partner. Look at the words you're using. Bad company. Mind your own business, company, corporation, partnership. And so when you're getting married, that's why you have to have a license, because it's a business. It's called getting married as a business. It's a corporate business. And that's why you have to have a license. It's extraordinary how the world really works. Yeah, we have 6 minutes before we go into a 4-minute commercial,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll be back. But so Nevada has a little dirty secret.
No, they
It's
got a couple of big ones.
well, they do have a couple of big ones, but I'll call it a big, dirty little secret. Anyway, back in the day when I was at the legislature, because I did 6 months of citizen lobbying against a whole bunch of, this is when I went from being a conspiracist to a factualist, because all the conspiracies were actually in legislation. And I was like, wow, it's fact. Anyway, one of the things that I was told when I was up there was that, Nevada, is a very criminal cartel state. I mean, it was basically given to the mafia, but there's a reason why, because they said that for the Civil War debt, that I think it was Lincoln or somebody like that actually signed off on Nevada, the pink slip, to pay for the Civil War debt because of the metals or whatever else. So Nevada, out of 50 states, it's all pretty dangerous, but Nevada is the most dangerous place to live, because it says, if you go, I don't know if they've changed it, but I didn't even know this living in Nevada, because we thought we were really free here because we had open gun carry, but the thing is, found out it was like one of the probably worst places to live. And so basically, we didn't have a separate state constitution. We were not our own original country.
And the reason why is because Nevada is not, in point of fact, a state. We call it the state of Nevada. It's not a state. No.
It's part of the federal government. It says 85% of it's owned by the federal government.
That's right. Exactly.
And it says that the federal Constitution was adopted for the citizens of Nevada, which means that the newer corporation Constitution was put in without the people knowing or getting a chance to make a decision about it for. So we are under serious 100% United States corporation jurisdiction, period, end of story. And here, if you have to, say you get into some kind of trouble, or you didn't get into trouble, and you have to get a, representation council that they give to you for free, up until, well, I think it's still happening because of that, corporation constitution that it's for the citizens of Nevada. They have to plead you as guilty, even if you were innocent. They have to, basically negotiate your guilt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's our big little dirty secret here in Nevada.
Yeah. Well, I knew about Nevada not being a state. I knew about that. I knew about that.
Not a lot of people know about that, so I'm kind of impressed. No.
Yeah.
But they used it as a threat when I was at the legislature, because there was 8 of us. 7 of us were old school, amazing, brilliant legal people who have been fighting in Nevada forever. And we fought against 890 paid legislators that were more like sharks. And it's a weird thing. They know, this is how creepy it is. They know what to wear like every day of the week, so that they know each other. They can spot each other out by what they wear, because it's a club. So they know immediately by what you're wearing that you don't fit in and you don't belong.
That's right.
And then they drop hints on you and threats about like the state of Nevada, that it's not really a state. So why are you even here? You have no civil liberties in the state. So you can decide to give us testimony and research and whatever else against bills or for bills, but it doesn't really matter, because we're not going to really listen to you, because you don't exist.
That's right. That's precisely right. That's exactly right. And I've seen that replayed so many times. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in the club. And so you need to wake up and find out that there's people who run your life and who own you and who own this country that you live in. And you are nothing more than a corporation and a corporation. And when you die, you're a corpse. How did all of this happen? Well, it happened because of the Civil War. Because,
Okay, hold off on that. We're gonna come back after the break, and we're gonna totally talk about that. So let me just put a couple things in here. So you're listening to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes. Your host, Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, and our conversation is with Jordan Maxwell today. And you can go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. That's our website. You can also find us on the TuneIn app these days. And we do have advertising. I do advertise my healthcare, my alternative out-of-the-box healthcare system. I do online. I am advertising on Revolution Radio, supporting my own network. So we do some really good advertising. Also, if you go to the funding link, you'll be able to find ways that you can fund us to help keep our shows going. And also you can go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, look under Schedule A, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, see the B, click on the B. There's bio information and contact information. All right, we're on break. We'll see you back in 4 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
From the astral realms to the physical plane, the halls of power to the walls of home, the multiverse to the innerverse, all will be haunted by the ghost in the machine. I am Steve Zerloff, the ghost in the machine. Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B. Exclusively here on Revolution.Radio.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived.
All right,
there was
everybody.
lots of
Hopefully
damage done to my
promos are
heart.
over.
What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more
I'm promo
called
deficient on this
Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy.
Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff,
If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start.
We're in the second
to order,
hour.
call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
So our guest is Jordan Maxwell, and we're going to go right into
the opinions
Civil War.
expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who express them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio,
the governmental and the courts said in their findings, they said that the states are not united any longer. There's been a lot of bad blood and a lot of violence and murder and killing, and so we're not united states. We are just states now. We're but what are you going to do with us? So what was going to happen was they had to do something because the people are still here. They still want to work. They still have to eat. And so they were no longer a United States, and so they decided, the powers that be, the bankers who financed this country from the beginning, they decided that since we're no longer a United States, we would no longer have that term in commerce and in law throughout the world. We would no longer be referred to as the United States of America because we're not united. We would now be a new idea and a new way of running things. We will become a corporation, a company, and it would be called the United States Corporation, and it would be a company. And so that's how they got around the fact that since we're no longer united, but we're all still here and everybody wants to eat and work and live, and there's too many people here, so you got to do something with them. So they called us the United States Corporation, and therefore anybody living on the land that we call North America and in the United States is actually a member of a corporation. So that you are like working for Ford Motor Company or Exxon or General Electric or any of the other big corporations. Well, the big corporation is the mother corporation, is called the United States Company, the United States Corporation. And it's a very interesting way that they set up this corporation so that each one of us is a corporate worker. We're all working for a corporation. And so if you come into this country, which is a corporation now, it's not the United States, it's a United States company. So if you come across the border, you are illegally and unlawfully entering into the property of a corporation. And so therefore they can put a lien on you. They can put a lien. It's called a mechanic's lien. So if I paint your home and you don't pay me, I can put a lien on your property, which simply means you cannot do anything with that property till you pay me. I hold you responsible to pay me, and if you don't pay me, I put a lien on your house, and therefore you have to pay me. Eventually, if you're going to do anything with the property, I get paid. And so therefore, if you come into this country, you are a lien. They have put a lien on you, and you become known as an alien. You will become as an alien. No, a lien has been put on you. And so you are an alien. And so it's a business, it's a corporation. And so that's why today, as a corporation, we no longer have freedom, because the corporations by law, according to the whole idea of corporate law, corporations cannot make a law. General Electric and General Motors and Ford Motor Company and Exxon Oil and any other big corporation, or any corporation, period, cannot make a law. There is no way for a corporation to set a law for the whole country. All the states have to abide by Ford Motor Company's law. No, there is no such a thing as a law by a corporation. Corporations can only have, as in that way of thinking, a corporation can only have its own policy. That's different. A policy from what the corporation they can do. Sears has their own policy about the way they do their business. They don't have a law. It's not written in a law book. No, it's just the corporation has their policy. And so we today have policymakers. We're called lawmakers. No, it's actually called policymakers. And now government is no longer a United States government of a republic as a republic. It's called public policy. And that's the name of and that's the way operations work in America. It's called public policy because it's a corporation and a corporation has their policies. And so their policy is that you have to pay for this, you have to get a permit for that, you have to get permission for this, because that's just their policy. But suppose you decide you don't like their policy and you're not going to abide by their policy, by this personal policy of a corporation. Well, they got to be able to back up their policy, so they have police to back up their policy. The policy is backed up by police. And so the police department is not here to protect you. It's here to be, they're called peace officers. They are here to keep the peace under the corporation, under corporate law. And so when I have said, and I have given so many lectures at universities where I put a big picture of the world and of the United States of America on the wall, and I say, I dare say there's no one in this audience that can point to the United States on a world map, and people immediately point to North America, and they say, well, here it is, there's the United States. I said, no, that's not the United States. The United States is not the 50 states that we call the federal enclave, which is 50 different countries. Each one of our states is a different country. It has its own governor, its own Senate, its own operation, and each one of our states is a different country. But we bring our countries together and we call it the United States. Well, that's why we are now looking at the Euro, the United States of Europe. All the different countries in Europe are all deciding to be the same way and ultimately come together so you can go across borders and you don't have to, you have to stand in line with passports. You can go across the borders in Europe because it will be a United States of Europe. And so we are today a corporation, and the corporations have their policy, which is backed up by police. And so when you work for a corporation, you usually have to wear a tag, some sort of a ID tag, showing that you are actually, in fact, working for that corporation at the time. And so that corporate identity we call the Social Security card. And that little card is like identification showing you are a member of this company called the United States Corporation. And on the back of that card, you will see a series of numbers and some letters and numbers. On the back of the card at the bottom, you'll see a series of numbers, and you'll take a dollar bill, a $50 bill, $100 bill, a 20, it doesn't matter. Get one of the bills that we have in our money and put your Social Security card on the back next to the numbers on the dollar bill, and you will see the numbers match the numbering system on the back of the Social Security card. The numbers on the Social Security card look just like and that's because the money is based on your Social Security card. You are a security for the corporation. As long as you're working and you're paying money and paying fines and tickets and permits and all that stuff and paying taxes and paying this and paying that and just keep paying, then you are a security for the corporation. It's making a lot of money off of you. 24 hours a day, they're making money off of you. And so therefore you're a security for the body social. And that's why when you retire, which means you're going home to go to bed, you're retiring. Well, when you retire, you have to live on something. So since you've been a security for the body social, they give you a dividend to keep you alive, and it's called Social Security. No, you don't get Social Security. You were security for the body social called the United States Corporation. And so it's just a business. And once you understand how business works and how banks work, why do you have banks? Banks are on both sides of a river. It's called a river bank. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency, because your money is water. It's considered to be a current. It comes in, it goes out continually. And so we have two kinds of law on the earth, the law of the land and the law of water. People use the term law of the land. They've heard that, but they don't know why do you have that word law of the land. Because there are two kinds of law on the earth. There's a law of the land and the law of the sea. The law of the sea is referred to as maritime admiralty. The law of water, that's why you have admirals in the Navy. All of this is connected to international banking. It's called the law of the high seas. It's called banking law. And that's why your money is a ebb and flow of a liquid asset. It's a liquid asset. And people today, we're told that your money goes through your hands like water. No, money is water. It's a maritime admiralty product. And the reason why is because money is based on the high seas. It's based on water. And you're like 80% water yourself. And when you were born, you came out of your mother's water. And this, when you came out of your mother's water, you came out into the world, and now you're going to earn money, and you're going to be in business. You are a business. And thank God what you do is none of my business. And what I do is none of your business, but you are a business, and I am too. And so, and to look at the world that way, let me give you an example of how your money works in America. First of all, you do not pay a bill. In this country, you cannot pay a bill. You can discharge a debt, but you do not ever pay a bill. Let me explain how. When, let's say for the sake of discussion, that you are a painter, a painting contractor, and I call you and ask you to come and look at my office. I want you to paint my office. Then you come over, you check out the office and see what you're going to have to do to paint my office. Then you give me an estimate, and you estimate it'll be about $100 to paint the office. We're talking about commerce. You're in business. And so if I agree, then you come over and you do the job. When you're through with the job, you give me, in business, you give me a bill. And the bill is for $100, and you expect me to pay you. And so I open my wallet, and I pull out $100, and I give it to you. So therefore, I paid you. No, I didn't pay you. When you go to work and you get paid, you're not getting paid. Because when you gave me a bill for $100, I gave you a $100 bill. If you give me a bill for $20, I'd reach in my pocket and give you a $20 bill. Because what my money is a bill. And so therefore, all we're doing is I am equalizing the debt. I'm not paying you anything. I am discharging the debt. It's like walking across carpet when your body builds up electricity and you touch a piece of metal, you get shocked. It's like sticker shock. It's a whole idea that water and electricity goes into what we call money. And so You need to understand, because you did not pay for anything, but you're just discharging a debt the way it's set up in America, you don't, in fact, own anything. You got a brand new car you bought, you paid it off, you think you own it, you don't own anything. You never bought your new car. You paid for it, but you didn't buy it. You don't own it. You're merely leasing it from the leasing company. We say you're buying it, but you don't buy it because you don't own it. And the reason why is because you never paid for it. Because according to the United States law, the way this country was set up, money is gold and silver coin, period. End of sentence. That is money, gold and silver coin. Well, you don't use gold and silver coin anymore. You don't have any gold and silver coin. And even if you did, you can't go in and buy something in a store with a gold and silver coin. You just use it as an investment. You can't use it. Nobody takes a gold and silver coins except for maybe nickels. They're not gold and they're not silver. But you can spend silver dollars, and some of the coins we use, if they're silver, you can spend them. But normally you don't pay for anything with gold and silver coins. You pay with a piece of paper, which is actually a bank note. And so that's why you don't own anything. Now, if you want to own something and you're going to buy something very expensive, like a home or a new car or an airplane or something, you need to buy the thing you're going to buy. You need to get it with an allodial title. It's spelled A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L, allodial. Allodial title means you will own that thing that you're buying. Therefore, no one can touch that thing that you bought. No one can touch it for any reason. No matter what the reason, no one can touch it because you own it. But no, most people have never heard of a allodial title. That's why they're losing their homes. When you can't pay your taxes, you lose your home. But had you bought your home a allodial title, no one, including God, cannot touch that property, period. That's international law. So if you're going to buy something that's expensive, get it on a allodial title. And that means you own it. No matter what happens, no one can touch it, period. Not the federal, not the state, nobody. International, United Nations, nobody can touch anything that you own allodial. So go look it up and understand the way the banks really work. And as I said, why do you have banks? Well, they're called river banks because the river bank directs the flow of your currency. And so that's the way the monetary system works. It's all based on your body. That's why if you have a daughter and she's marrying a young man who comes from a very wealthy family, you say things like, well, he comes from a good stock. He comes from good stock. And I say, what is she doing, marrying a cow? No, he comes from good stock because his family are wealthy. So that's why today we have a stock market. And that's why, for years in this country, you had to have, your house had to have a backyard so your children could play in the backyard. Why? Because your children are in a stockyard. And so therefore you were a maritime admiralty product. It's really an incredible way that the world really works, the way banks actually work. I'll give you another piece of advice. When you go in to buy a new car, say the car costs $40,000, you get the paperwork for the car. You go to the dealership, and you get the paperwork all worked out because the car has to be examined by an appraiser. A governmental appraiser has appraised the car, and he said that this car, brand new, is worth $40,000. So you take the paperwork, which is called commercial paper. You have a piece of paper that is representing an automobile that costs $40,000. So in your hands, you are dealing with $40,000 piece of commercial of commerce. You're dealing with commercial paper. So you take that to the bank, and the bank will then take that commercial paper, and the bank opens up a bank account in your name, but it doesn't tell you that because that's against the law for you to open up a bank account in my name. But banks can do it because they're opening up a bank account and they are a bank, so they can do it. So they open up a bank account in your name. And then they take that commercial paper worth $40,000 and put it into your account. That's the way it works. They have now got $40,000 in your bank account with your name on it, but you didn't put your name on it. They put your name on it. You didn't open anything. They did it. And so then they put the money into that $40,000 worth of paper represents your car into the bank account. Now you can write a check on that bank account for $40,000. So they write a check on that $40,000 for $40,000, and then you take that check and they take it and they send it to the dealership. So now the dealership is happy, they got paid. You're happy because you got the car. The bank is happy because they got the car. They own the pink slip, and so now you have to pay the bank. Plus, you have to pay the interest on the loan. It's not a loan. They just wrote out a piece of paper and called it a check, and they sent the check over, and that's it. They didn't have to pay any money. They just sent a check out to the dealer. And so now you owe that bank plus the interest for them doing that for you. And now the banks have created two things. They have now broke the law, felonies. They have broke the law twice. The banks are now in jeopardy. They are in serious trouble. Why? Because there is a law that says you cannot collect interest on money you never put out. If I can't charge you interest on something that I never gave you. If I gave you gold coins and silver coins and it was understood and signed and paper and you have people that were witnesses to it, then at least I have the opportunity to charge you interest on the money I owned. It was my money and I loaned it to you. But if I go into the bank and put $100,000 into the bank one day and deposit it, you come in the next day and want to buy a $40,000 car and the bank is going to give you my money? No, thank you. The bank does not loan money. They merely give you a check written on the paperwork you bring in. And so that's the way it works. If you're going to buy a house and you get the paperwork from the realtor and bring it into the bank, and if they like it, then they take that and make a bank account with that kind of, with the $250,000 home, then you now have $250,000 in your bank account, and they write you a check, and the realtors are happy, and you got the home, and everybody's happy, and especially the bank, because they're going to get their money back because they're holding the slip on your house. They'll take it from you. And you have to pay the taxes on it. You got to pay the registration, and you got to pay this. You got to pay that. You got to pay. Why? Because you didn't buy anything. They're giving it to you on credit. And so it's an extraordinary story, as I said, about how the world and banks work and how the military works and how government works and how our government works and the different state governments and how they work. And most people do not know that that in order to be a U.S. citizen, that means you are a employee of a foreign corporation. The foreign corporation is not part of the United States of America. It's a privately owned company called the United States Corporation. It's a company that's owned by someone. Somebody owns this country, and they own you because you're living in this country. And it's really, there's so much more we could talk about in relation to business.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you think's important. What was the major change, during the Civil War? I mean, what kind of things took place that shifted the power structure so severely?
the Communist Party came into America big time. That was one of the main reasons why there was a civil war, because the Communist Party, the original Marxist-Leninist Communist Party, which later took over Russia, we called it the Soviet Union, the party was founded in London. It was founded in England, in Europe, and in London, in the UK. That's where the Communist Party came from, was in England and America. America and England got together and they formed something called the Communist Party. And so that's where we are today. All communist countries were referred to in law as the People's Democratic Republic. We have the People's Democratic Republic of China. The People's Democratic Republic of North Korea is called the People's Democratic Republic of Cuba. All communist countries are referred to as the peoples. That's a catchword. It's a catchphrase when you see the word peoples. Like on television, the People's Court. That's a communist term developed out of the Communist Party. The People's Democratic Republic. Well, that's what we are today. We are a democratic republic. We are a Soviet communist, Marxist-Leninist communist government today on the earth. The Soviet Union is gone, and we think communism's gone. No, it just mutated. It mutated from being a little Mickey Mouse operation in Russia to now it dominates the world. America is now spreading democracy, the People's Democratic Republic of the world. And that's why, when Rome, this all goes back to the Roman Empire, taking over the whole world for Rome. And when the Romans took over the Britannia, when they went into England, Caesar went into England, he set up his government in the UK. And where the Caesar's government was founded, where it was in the UK, was called York, England. That's where Caesar ruled the United Kingdom, from York, England. And so today we have something called over here New England. And we have New York. And New York is the center for the new Roman Empire. It's called the Empire State. They even have an Empire State Building in New York, the home of the new Roman Empire. And so that's what we are today. In North America, we are the modern-day Roman Empire. And that's why we have something called the Capitol, because if you look in the history books, you will see that the ancient Roman Empire in Rome, of which Caesar was the god of the people of Rome, where was that government for Caesar located in Europe? It was located in the city of Rome. And where was it located in Rome? It was located, Caesar's government was officially located in something called Capitoline Hill. Look in the history books, you will see it's called Capitoline Hill. That's what we have today. We have a Capitol Hill. And it was said in the history books that every morning when Caesar would go to officiate over his government, when he would go to oversee the government, it said that Caesar would go up on the hill. And so he would go up on the hill, Capitoline Hill, to oversee his government. Well, that's what we have today. We still have people who think they're God. They go up on the hill to officiate over the Roman Senate. So we have a Senate up on the hill, and it's very obviously a Roman Catholic Jesuit system that we live under in the United States. It's a Roman Catholic Jesuit system of government that we live under. So we are under what is called canon law. The Vatican owns America, period. America has corporations around the world, and we're just one of them. And the UK, the United Kingdom, is another corporation, and the Vatican owns that. So the Vatican actually, in fact, owns the United Kingdom of England, and the United Kingdom actually has the connection to the Vatican, and so do we. We are also a corporation under Vatican canon law. That's why today, when you see the Pope comes to America, all the big officials fall down on their knees and shaking like they're in a seizure. They fall down on their knees and shedding tears and beating themselves with sackcloth and ashes because the Holy Father is coming here. And they crawl on their knees to the Holy Father, never realizing he is referred to as the Holy Father because he talks to God. He's the original Godfather. That's why watching movies about the mob in New York, go watch Godfather 3, in which Michael Corleone and Godfather 3, the third one in the series, is dealing directly with the Holy Father in Rome. He's in the Vatican, buying and selling properties and doing business with the Vatican and the Holy Father. That's why everyone must go to Rome, no matter what country you are from, no matter who you are, if you're the president of any big corporation or any country, if you're an official, if you're what they call, what's the word? If you are an official or some kind of a minister of any kind, you must go, as all of our officials, our presidents and our vice presidents and our governors from all over this country, you must go to Rome. Eventually, like Islam has to go to Mecca, if you are an official in the Western world of any kind, in corporations and business, military, and governments and state governments, federal governments, it doesn't matter who you are, you must go to Rome and get on your knees and kiss the Pope's ring. Period. Why? Because he talks to God and he's the Holy Father. He's a Godfather. Get it? And so you need to wake up and find out how our country works. Who owns the United States federal government? It is a corporation under Vatican canon law. It's a maritime admiralty law. That's why the Pope, where he sits, is called the Holy See, because it's based on the water, the Roman land, and the two different kinds of law in Rome. Is the law of the land and the law of the sea. And that's why the Pope is said to sit in the Holy See.
So I have a question. I have a question for you.
Yep.
Okay. So why exactly would it be that recently the Pope has come out and declared that the new world religion should be Islam?
Yeah, it's because Islam is a basis for so much which is going on in the Western world financially, with the oil production countries of the world. And there's a whole piece of business that's been going on for a long time between the Islamic world and the American Masonic orders that run our banks and control our banking and control our government. This is why if you're in American Freemasonry, you start off with the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, and eventually you can go up to the 32nd degree. And if you're a 32nd degree, you may be invited. You have to be invited. You petition for it, but you might get invited to become a 33rd degree. And if you become a 33rd degree Mason, that means you're at the top of World Freemasonry in America. And if you're if you got a 33rd degree in Freemasonry, you can then, if you wish, you can join the jesters. There are different kinds of very high degree Masonic lodges. One is called the Jesters. One is called the Templars, the Knights Templars. There's another one that uses the symbol of the Masonic order, uses the symbol in America of Islam with the sword and the moon, the crescent moon and the sword. Can't remember who they're called. And so ultimately the top of the line Masonic orders in this country are working directly with the Islamic world, and it's a business arrangement. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And that's why there's nothing we can do about the Islamic pouring into Europe and pouring into America and ultimately going to totally destroy the culture of European man and the European people of this country. Their countries and their customs and their country are being destroyed. And so it's a secret society operating on a world-class level at the top of the world, which is being controlled by and orchestrated by and financed by the Jesuit order. If you want to know who the real culprits who have taken over America and are bleeding you dry and taking your home and throwing you into prison and calling you to go to court, and running your court system and your governmental system and your police department. If you want to know how all that works, you need to go back and get a book on Jesuits and learn who the Jesuits really are and where they've come from and what they've been doing for the past couple of hundred years in your country that you didn't know anything about. They're setting up your Washington, D.C. They're setting up your governments. They're setting up the different states. They're setting up your state government, your federal government, your banking, your religions, all your cults, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Worldwide Church of God. It's all Masonic stuff going on, being orchestrated and financed and directed by the Jesuits of Rome.
So so there's another name for the Jesuits too, right? The Black Popes.
Yeah, the Black Pope. Yep. He is referred to as the Black Pope because black it implies darkness symbolically. And he's operating in the dark, so they call him the Black Pope. Why they call him Black Pope? Because the Jesuits operate on the worship of the planet Saturn. And Saturn is referred to as the Lord of the Rings. Of course, Saturn is the Lord of the Rings. And anything to do with Saturn, the encyclopedias will tell you. Look it up. Saturn was always referred to as the god of darkness. He was always referred to as the black god. And so Saturn is always referred to as being the color black, while Earth is green. The different planets had different colors associated with them. Of course, the sun and the moon is gold and silver, and that's why we use gold and silver, because it represents the sun and the moon. The moon is the silver, 30 pieces of silver, or the 30 days of each month is called the 30 pieces of silver. And the sun is referred to as being golden. And so when the sun was in the constellation, every 2,150 years, the sun shines on the earth from a different constellation. If you go down to the equator, stand on the equator in the early morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning on the equator, and you look eastward, and you will see the sun come up on the equator, and there's a bunch of stars there in the sky where the sun is rising. Well, those stars are part of what we call the zodiac. And so the sun, many long hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, I should say, thousands of years ago, the sun was in the constellation of Taurus. Taurus was a constellation of the zodiac, and Taurus was always pictured as a bull. And so Taurus the bull, and the sun would rise for 2,150 years every morning in the constellation of Taurus. And this is why the Jews had a golden calf. They worshiped God's Son. They worshiped the Son of God, God's Son, the light of the world. So the Jews were sun worshipers. They still are today. They're worshiping the sun. And so the Christians, they're worshiping the sun too. They call Jesus God's Son, the light of the world. Well, of course, the sun is the light of this world. And the Christian will tell you that he is their risen Savior. Well, of course, the sun rises. It rises every morning. And so it is your Savior. If you don't think the sun is your Savior, wait till it don't come back. It will freeze in 3 weeks. We'll be dead and gone in 3 weeks.
Hey,
if
so
the sun doesn't come back.
wasn't it Akhenaten that brought the sun worship back?
Yep, that's right. And
so
that's
he's
why
the founder of. So he's kind of the founder of those belief systems currently.
Yep.
And he was. Do you believe that he was extraterrestrial?
I think probably.
Yeah,
I tend to feel that. I tend to
too.
feel that. And the reason why is because, I've been looking at theology as my favorite subject is theology. All this other secular stuff, I'm just telling people to help them understand the world they live in. I don't care about it. My favorite subject is theology and the religions of the world and where they've really come from and what they really mean and what they're really teaching. And so when you understand that the world today is sun worshipers, the Jews are not just sun worshipers. That's one of the many gods that they have worshipped. They have worshipped at least 7 different gods. 7 different religions in this world are put into one religion. It's called Judaism. The Jewish religion is made up of 7 different cults from the ancient world. And it's like a smorgasbord. You go down the line, you pick what you want and put that into the plate. At the end of the meal, you've gotten 7 different kinds of food. Well, that's the same thing in Judaism. You got 7 different religions. One of the religions of the Jewish religion was called moon worship, solar worship, the worship of the sun, and the worship of the moon. The worship of the planet Venus was very important. The worship of Saturn. Saturn was the Lord of the rings. He was called the Lord of the black robe. This is why the rabbis wear black robes, and Catholic priests wear black robes, and Darth Vader and vampires wear black robes. Black robes were the symbol for the planet Saturn. And Saturn was Lord of the Rings, and women in the ancient world were told to listen to their god, so they wear an earring. Men were supposed to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring, because Saturn is Lord of the Rings, and Hollywood is still making movies about the Jewish god Saturn. And this is why Saturn was in the ancient world referred to as El. El was God in the Hebrew. El. And El was the planet Saturn. And this is why the Jews have something called a Temp El. Temp is the house of El. The house of El is a Temp El. And therefore the Jews go to Temp El on Friday, which is called Sabbath. The Sabbath is called Sabbath because the planet Saturn in the Phoenician Canaanite language, we call it Hebrew, but it's actually Phoenician language. And in the Phoenician language, the planet Saturn that we call Saturn today was actually spelled Shabbath, S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H, Shabbath. Shabbath is the planet Saturn. And so if you're going to worship your god Saturn, you do it on what they call the Sabbath. Sabbath is the worship of the planet Saturn, Shabbath. And so when you in the 10 Commandments, when it says, remember to keep holy the Sabbath is the worship of Saturn. Look it up in a dictionary, encyclopedia. Go to school, learn how to read and think.
So I have
start questioning.
Yeah. So I have a question. So I have family that I have an uncle and an aunt that are 7-day Adventists, and they have this really stringent belief system about Saturday and it being the Sabbath because they're worshiping Saturn.
It's a Masonic order.
Yeah.
The 7-day Adventists are a Jewish Freemasonry, the Jewish Freemasonic order. So are Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses is a New York Jewish Masonic order. The Freemasons own Jehovah's Witnesses and run the organization and are running it into the ground, and they control millions of people around the world. It's called Jewish Freemasonry, New York. And so it's a very interesting subject when you get into theology and religion and who owns the churches and who starts them. And what we call the white man's world was in Europe. Europe is where our people in America originally came from, was Europe. And Europe was dominated by the Roman Empire. But even before Rome existed, there was in Europe a lot of people, millions of people living in Europe. And they were in different countries. And this was before the Roman Empire. And these people lived in the north, east, west, and southern Europe. And those people, that's why anything that happened in the north, east, or west, and southern Europe was called news. North, east, west, and south, NEWS. So the northeast and western southern Europe was ruled by ancient Masonic cult called Druids. The Druids were a very powerful secret society that ran Europe for 1,000 years. They're still today. America is still a Druid country, and Europe is still a Druid company.
Is that why there's so much murder that's related?
Yes.
To the U.S.? Because I think I read something about where some scientists now believe, like, because of they found thousands and thousands of human bones where Druids had settlements that they would capture people and then they would execute them and torture them.
Well, we're still doing it today.
Yeah. It must be where it comes from, right?
Yeah. And so the most important thing in Europe was if you're somebody who's important, doctors, lawyers, judges, teachers, anybody, religious leaders, popes, it doesn't matter. Whoever you are, if you're important in Europe during early Roman Empire, you were a Druid. And one of the most important symbols of your power in the Druid community, one of the most important symbols you held is a magic wand. Magic wands were a Druid symbol. And so magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. Magic wands were made out of holly wood. And this is why today we still have the magic of Hollywood. Holly was a wood that they made magic wands out of. And so today in Hollywood, there's a legitimate, de jure, real, occult, dark Freemasonic organization running Hollywood. And this is what Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are talking about when you see the movie Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're talking about the Knights Templars, the Druid system of Templarism. All the worship in the Old Testament Bible is all Masonic. It never happened. The old Masonic Bible of the Old Testament is a Druidic story about the Druids. And this is why Indiana Jones, when he is given the job by the U.S. government to go and find the lost Ark of the Covenant, the lost Ark of the Covenant obviously is the covenant between the God and the Jewish people, is the lost Ark of the Covenant. It's the Ark of the Covenant. Well, in point of fact, when Indiana Jones leaves to go find the lost Ark of the Covenant in the movie, where does he go first? Instinctively go first. In the movie, he goes directly to find the lost Ark in Tibet. Why did Indiana Jones have to go to Tibet? Because he was looking for some little crystal that would tell him and show him where the Ark will be found. Well, what he was actually looking for in real life, if you were looking for the lost Ark of the Jews, you have to go to Tibet. Why? Not to get the little crystal. That was just a part of the story. But what you go to Tibet for is learn for the first time what was an Ark. What was it that you're looking for? If you're looking for the lost Ark, you don't even know what an Ark is. And then when he found the crystal and he found the information he needed, now he needs to go and find the lost Ark. He's got the crystal. Where did he go? Did he go to Jerusalem in the Holy Land? No, he went to Egypt. because he knew, like I do, there's nothing holy in the Holy Land. The only thing holy in the Holy Land are the stories that come out of it. They're full of holes. Once you understand that the whole lost ark of the Hebrews is actually based on, in point of fact, in real life, an Egyptian Ark of the Contract. It's called the Ark of the Contract. Well, a contract in Hebrew could be called a covenant. And so it's called the Ark of the Covenant. No, it's the Ark of the Contract, and it doesn't have anything to do with Jews whatsoever, period. Nothing Hebrew about it. All Egyptian. That's why Indiana Jones finds the lost Ark in Egypt. It has nothing to do with the Holy Land or Jerusalem at all. Even Spielberg, who is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. He knows that the whole idea of the Jewish lost ark is Egyptian. And that's why they have Indiana Jones going to Egypt, and be damned if he doesn't find the lost ark in Egypt. And then with the lost ark, the next movie was the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He's looking for the cup of Christ. And the Last Crusade is also dealing with the Masonic order. Again, it's always the Knights Templars. The Knights Templars are the powers behind world banking today. And it's an incredible story about how our banks are run, how the church operates behind the world scene and is ripping us off and using us. And they own our bodies, they own our corporations. It's just an incredible story. And how the world actually works. And that brings me to the point that if you're going to, as I told you, if you're going to buy something, buy a allodial title. That means you actually own it. And when you buy a new car, you get something. If you buy a brand new car, you get something called the operator's manual. It's usually in the glove compartment. It gets an operator's manual, which means it's telling you how to operate this vehicle. It tells you when to change the oil and how to treat the car because it's an operator's manual. And when you buy it, you're referred to as an operator motorized vehicle. But if you're going to use those wheels for a car or a truck or a motorcycle or a tank, it doesn't matter. If you're going to a dealer and buying something with wheels on it, then you are going, if you're using those wheels to make money, then you're not going to buy the car for your personal use. You're buying it to make it into a cab. Well, that's different. Now you're going to be in business. So now you're going to have to call yourself no longer an operator. You're no longer an operator of a car. You're now referred to in business as a driver. You can be a bus driver, a truck driver, an ambulance driver. If you're driving and making money, then you are a driver. You're not an operator. And this is why you have to have a license, because you're in business as a driver. You've got to have a driver's license. And it's all based on lies, deception, manipulation of your thinking, and just where do you start? Where do you end this story? I mean, it could go on for 10 hours.
No,
showing
I know.
you how the world you live in is totally manipulated and exploiting you and your ignorance.
Yeah, there's like nothing. I mean, one of the things that I'm really big into is nature. I'm in a herbal medicine program this year that does a lot of wild crafting. One thing why I really like it is because the plants don't lie to you. They either have the medicine or they don't. It's black and white. And you can grow it, you can cultivate it, you can do all kinds of different things with your health. You can cure things, make things from it. But everything else in this entire world is 100% a lie. I mean, and I think that for me, having been in, healthcare and being an alternative medicine and practitioner for 30 years, and coming from, families and bloodlines of holistic people, for me, like the biggest lie right now is doctors, because the medical system hides everything.
Of course they do.
They hide the law.
They hide all kinds of stuff. They hide
our
the germs that they are actually producing.
Yeah, and they get to do, Frankenstein-y type stuff because they've been given authority to do it because they're the ones that make the original contracts that we have at birth.
That's right.
So they keep the ultimate secret. So I look at doctors as probably the largest criminals, and veterinarians, because they're also hiding Fukushima. They're also hiding the GMOs. They're also hiding the chemtrails. They're doing the hiding of everything and religion and, because
all of it.
They are a religious sect.
No doubt about it.
And they're the ones that are keeping the secrets about everything, no matter what it is.
And that's what I'm saying. I have that on my website, all the documents. It's showing you the difference between a federal citizenship and a state citizenship. And if you would call yourself a U.S. citizen, then you're not an American. You are an employee of a corporation, but you're not an American. Americans are not U.S. corporations.
So what would indicate you as an American? Like, what do you think would indicate you as that?
You would have to do something that's called a state citizen. You become a state citizen. You can become a citizen of the state in which you live. But if you do that, which I would suggest you don't do that because it's a lot of trouble, but you can do it, and there are people who have done it, and they live fine. But you have to know what you're doing, because when you become a state citizen, you must drop out of the federal enclave. You become no longer a U.S. citizen. You become the citizen of the state of California, or the citizen of the state of New York. You become a citizen of the state, and that gives you a different kind of passport, a different kind of licenses, everything in your life will change differently, but you're no longer under federal government.
Hey, Jordan, it's the end of the show. Thank you. I'll connect your links. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Welcome to Revolution Radio, where you, the listeners, are in charge. Here at Revolution Radio, we present 48 broadcast hours of news and information each and every day. Revolution Radio never sleeps. Revolution Radio is worldwide and borderless information. Revolution Radio is also commercial-free. Revolution Radio is supported 100% by you, the listeners. And that's why we appeal to you to donate and support this station and its expenses. You can support us in many available options like archive subscriptions, our seed pack selections, or even my woodworking store. And we also even have Revolution Radio's swag at the Revolution Radio Zazzle store, in which you can get t-shirts, coffee cups, even a baby onesie. Or you can just plain donate to the cause. We cannot continue without your support, and your support is what helps pay the bills. So please, if you wish us to continue, please stop by our station support page and drop a dime on us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank or all